In the chaos of World War II, soldiers faced dangers that went far beyond the battlefield. It wasn't just bullets and bombs. It was hunger, freezing nights, disease, and the constant uncertainty of surviving far from home. What kept these men alive wasn't always brute strength or superior weapons. Often, it came down to small, ingenious tricks. Methods so effective they were passed quietly from soldier to soldier, sometimes even recorded as classified knowledge. These weren't battlefield tactics. They were subtle, clever solutions that often meant the difference between life and death. And here's the most fascinating part. Many of these survival tricks are still useful today. Whether you're a camper, a homesteader, a history enthusiast, or simply curious about forgotten skills, these wartime methods prove to be far more than relics of the past. They are timeless, practical, and surprisingly relevant. Let's step back into an era where innovation was born from desperation and necessity, and uncover how soldiers managed to endure the impossible. In the field, disease was as deadly as enemy fire. Dysentery, typhus, and trench foot claimed thousands of lives. Soldiers were issued a special bar of carbolic soap, dark red, strong-smelling, and lethal to bacteria. It wasn't used only for washing hands. Men cleaned wounds with it, sterilized tools, and even disinfected water containers. The soap was so valuable that losing a single bar could mean weeks of suffering, or worse. Today, its purpose lives on through antibacterial soaps and medical disinfectants. But back then, it served as a soldier's silent shield against invisible killers. Imagine being deep in enemy territory, needing a hot meal but unable to light a visible fire. The solution was surprisingly simple. Soldiers took an empty tin can, punched holes along the sides, and placed a candle inside. The metal trapped heat and protected the flame from wind, creating a covert stove. Bread could be toasted, water warmed, and canned rations heated without producing smoke that might reveal their position. It's a technique still used by survivalists and bushcrafters today. Coffee wasn't just a drink. It was an emotional lifeline. Troops often reused coffee grounds 2 or even 3 times to stretch limited supplies. But they had a secret. Toasted barley or chicory was mixed in to keep the brew strong. The warmth and familiar taste helped lift spirits during long, freezing watches. Commanders understood that morale was a weapon in itself. Preserving a soldier's sense of humanity, even briefly, mattered as much as ammunition. When clean water wasn't available, some soldiers used a method that sounds strange but worked in desperate situations. Dense dark bread was crumbled into cloth and used as a crude filter. Water poured through it lost much of its sediment and visible impurities. While it didn't kill pathogens, it served as a critical first step before boiling or chemical treatment. In survival terms, making unsafe water even partially drinkable could buy enough time to stay alive. Even non-smokers carried cigarettes. In occupied territories, a single cigarette could be traded for food, medicine, or vital information. In tense moments, offering one could act as a distraction, buying precious seconds to act. The military never officially approved this use, but veterans later confirmed that tobacco was as much a tool as it was a vice. It wasn't glamorous, but the sewing kit, sometimes hidden inside a uniform lining, was a quiet hero. In the cold, a torn coat could lead to frostbite. In the jungle, a ripped mosquito net could result in malaria. Soldiers repaired clothing, reinforced boots, and even fashioned fishing lines from thread. A tiny pouch of needles and thread could extend the life of essential gear for months. When matches failed and lighters stopped working, soldiers relied on a method borrowed from farmers and sailors. Strips of cloth soaked in engine oil or animal fat were stored in tins. Even in rain, they could catch a spark and burn long enough to ignite damp wood. The smell was awful and the smoke thick, but it worked. In the frozen winters of the Ardennes or the Russian front, this trick meant warmth and survival. Rations often spoiled in the humid jungles of the Pacific. Salt, already essential to diet, became a preservation tool. Soldiers used it to cure meat and fish caught on the march. They rubbed it into leather gear to prevent mold and packed it into boots overnight to draw out moisture. In environments where everything seemed to rot, a handful of salt was priceless. Uniform buttons had a habit of disappearing at the worst times. Without replacements, soldiers improvised. Wet bread was rolled into a ball, flattened, and pierced with holes. Once dried in the sun, it hardened into a surprisingly durable button. It wasn't elegant, but in war, small comforts and order mattered more than appearance. Perhaps the most ingenious survival trick came disguised as an ordinary deck of playing cards. Some were specially issued. When dampened and carefully separated, the layers revealed detailed escape maps printed inside. Prisoners of war used them to navigate back to friendly territory. The concept worked so well that it later influenced Cold War espionage techniques. The brilliance of these World War II survival methods lies not only in their practicality, but in the mindset behind them. Soldiers didn't have endless supplies or modern equipment. They adapted, innovated, and survived using whatever they had. These were convenience hacks. They were lifelines forged under extreme pressure. In a world dominated by technology, these lessons remain powerful reminders that ingenuity and adaptability are timeless tools. The same candle stove that kept a soldier alive in 1944 can still warm a camper today. The same improvised water filter can help in modern disasters when infrastructure fails. History isn't shaped only by grand battles and famous strategies. Often, it's the quiet, overlooked acts of survival that matter most. These are the skills worth remembering, preserving, and using again. If you found these hidden pieces of history as fascinating as the battles themselves, share this with others who love the past. Because history has more to teach us than we realize, and some of its best lessons are still hidden in plain sight.